you took in your first sporting events in the old RFK.
I was born and raised in RFK Stadium. Yeah, my mom had season tickets to the Redskins from 1971, I think. The first time I went to the stadium was a Senators game, 1968, if I'm not mistaken. And you know, I was a crazy sports fan. Anything with a ball attracted me, you know, from a very early age. I remember going to the stadium with my godfather, and I remember coming home and telling my mom, "Wow, Frank Howard slid into second, and he went under the dirt and came back." You know, I was just so mesmerized by what I was seeing, the dust flying, and it's still one of the greatest thrills for me. Is going into a stadium, walking up the stairs, and seeing the green of the field. It's just anywhere. I just get, you know, I just tingle when I see that. Well, but RFK was a magical place.
Well, a friend of mine once took me to a Cowboys-Redskins game at RFK, and in his family seats, because nobody was buying single-game tickets.
Yeah,
okay,
no.
Right? Everybody's seats were family seats, or they
passed down.
No question.
Yeah, in the will.
They were right. Yeah. They were 2 rows from the edge of the upper deck. There were just 2 decks, so we were in the second deck, 2 rows. And we were it hung over the end zone. To see anything in the back of the end zone, we had to stand up and lean over.
Yeah.
And I remember when the Redskins took the lead, the place shook.
Yeah.
Literally.
It bounced.
Yeah.
Well, it was such an intimate space, as you described. There were only 2 levels, only 54,000 people, tight, packed, shaking. And it had such a wonderful feel about it. Because it was in Southeast D.C., where I grew up, which was kind of a place that most folks only went to for a Redskins game.
Yeah.
But you had everyone in the D.C. community gathering on Sundays to watch that team play, and it was just a special environment. You had a little jazz band playing in the corner. Had a very subtle, you know, class to it, and. I've been to the new stadium once. Won't go back.
Why?
Just because it's cold. It's out in the suburbs. At RFK, 2 levels divided by one ring, and that's where the players were listed. That, you know, Ring of Fame.
Sure.
You know, you had Larry Brown, Jurgensen, all of those guys listed there. Go to the new stadium. I think it has 3 tiers, and in between those rings, you have the first ring is FedEx and advertising and all of this stuff. The top ring is where the players are listed. So for me, it speaks to a hierarchy, what the experience is about. It's not about those guys on the field. It's about the commercial aspects of it. And it's just the feel of it is just off to me. It's cold. Cops are staring at you. You know, the one game I went, as opposed to at RFK Stadium, the cops were watching the game. You're like, hey, man.
Well, I guess it was different times back then, no doubt about that.
Yeah, totally.
But so who was your guy growing up?
Who's my guy?
Yeah.
My guy was Larry Brown. Larry Brown, you know. He was just this thrashing, daring, you know, just beautiful play. He was just a beautiful athlete, and he just gave it everything he had every time he touched that ball, every time he touched the field.
So are you through with the Redskins, or
you know,
because I know you don't live in the D.C. area.
I don't. I live in Brooklyn now. You know,
so you're a Jet Giant? Have you?
Nah, I can't do that. I can't do that.
Can't do that.
You know, I mean, I used to cry when the Redskins lost, but it's a tough organization to get behind now. It's been 20 years of incompetence, 20 years of failure. And we as fans invest our money. My mom still got season tickets. We invest our emotions. And in return, as far as the team, as the organization goes, we've got 20 years of disappointment. And it's a team that was a storied organization. You know, had you know, great success. You know, 3 Super Bowls. Doug Williams leading the, you know, first black quarterback to win a Super Bowl, and it's just been a diminishment of that. I feel in some ways my childhood has been stolen from me, because you just look at it, it's just confusion, one failure, one after another, the RG3 thing. the way that played out. Actually, I did go back. I went to another game when RG3 was played the game. He got knocked out against the Falcons.
Yeah, which one? I was about to say which you could name about 5 games that he got knocked out of.
Well, that one was rough. But he brought that energy back to DC, and he was running to the ground. Whether he had something to do with that, whether he couldn't be managed properly, I think it's the responsibility of the coach. It's the responsibility of the organization to manage that situation. If I had been coach at that time, the first time he got knocked out of a game, every time he touched the ball in practice that following week, he would have slid. I don't care if he was handing the ball off and just sitting in the backfield, he would have slid every time he got that ball.
When it all comes down to it, I think when we look back on the RG3 years, I guess, he's got some fingerprints on it too.
No, there's no question about it. But my point is, coaching is about leadership. And you've got a player who thinks he can do anything. You want that player to think he can do anything. But at the same time, you have to have the strength of leadership to manage that talent. And that's the way it goes. I think Vince Lombardi would have set him straight, would have put him in the right position to protect himself and lead the team on in a way that that didn't end in his crumbling at the end of the season.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.